He's got a guest.
Here.
He's got a guest.
Yes, he does.
Oh, there he is. Louis, can I give you this to introduce you guys? You can't go out on your own. you got to go with the guys.
Which cruise line are you?
It's good with Viking.
You're doing Viking?
Please stand. Welcome to your April 6, 2026 Rotary Club of Ames meeting. Let's start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have anyone to keep in our thoughts and prayers this morning? Let's just take a moment here and think of someone. Okay, thank you very much. You can be seated. We have some guests here today. I would like, before Louis comes up to play the song, he's got a guest to introduce as well. So,
yes, thank you very much. I have with me today a retired colleague of mine, David Moore, who is a neurologist at the McFarland Clinic for 26 years. And David also was a classmate at medical school of my son. So nice to have David Moore here today.
Thank you.
and one other guest who I would probably refer to as an honoree Rotarian of our club. Diane is here with Jim Patton again this morning. So welcome, Diane. And with that, we'll turn it over to the maestro. Here, I'll take it. Today, come back again whenever you're near. Join us and then we'll make it clear. Around the world you'll always be welcome at Rotary. Thank you, Louis. And we'll keep Louis up here for birthdays and such. Please remember to recycle your cans and bottles in back by the trash, and please silence your phones for our speakers today. Appreciate that very much. April birthdays. So we've got a few April birthdays here to sing happy birthday to. I see Selden here. So let's Kevin's birthday's here in April. Let's go ahead and sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, everybody. And anniversaries for the month of April. No song, just happy anniversary. Hopefully you remembered if it's already happened. Thank you, Louis. If not, here's your reminder, so please give them a gift, right? As Katie would always say. Perfect. Next, membership. This is a little bit smaller. We've got several on here. Merle with 42 years. Ann Campbell, I definitely saw Ann here, 37 years. Paul Livingston, 26. Thank you, everyone on the list, for all you've done for Rotary over the years. Service above self. Then our next meeting. So next week, we're going to have Kevin talk to us online. Some exciting news in the world of Ames. So please join us for that. And then we will be back in person at the Plex, back here on the 20th, and then online again on the 27th. So put those on your calendar. Next, we have volunteer requests for Special Olympics of Iowa. If you have any time, Thursday, March 21st at 5 p.m., There are sign-up sheets on each table, so please take a look at your calendar, see if you can help out with the Special Olympics. This is always a feel-good event to help out with. Again, that's on May 21st at 5 p.m., so take a look at those. You'll help seat at Hilton Coliseum and receive lots of high fives, or give lots of high fives, whichever you want to do. Perfect. I think at this time, I'm going to ask Karen Sevdy to come up and introduce a new member. And then Monica is going to do the charge for us, I believe.
Curtis, come on up. Lovely. Probably would be good. Probably would be good. You stood up, yeah. Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce Curtis Pike, son of Harold Pike, who's going to join us in membership. Curtis grew up in Ames and is a fellow classmate of mine. He attended UNI before returning to Ames and entering into business with his father, the Harold Pike Construction, where he assumed the role of president, CEO, and owner in 2019. He and his wife, Julie, live here in Ames and have 2 adult children, Cole and Jordan. Please welcome Curtis.
You get to stay yet.
We're pleased to have you joining us, and we'll look forward to visiting with you as we all become more acquainted over time. This organization is a wonderful one to be part of, and we hope that you'll try sitting at many tables while you're here so you get to know more people as time goes by. And whatever your interests are, be it skiing or wine or whatever, there's an organization you can get involved in the club. Many people meet with some regularity and some irregularity to become involved in special things with those, as well as many special activities that we are involved with, as we will do over Memorial Day as we help get people to their seats. So we do welcome you, and this is your first meeting. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere yet. Hold on.
Yeah. Yes, welcome aboard. There'll be a test later. We'll have you go through all. Okay, next on our list today we have Rotary Foundation accepting applications for annual scholarship. So, yeah, we have a video on this for later. I'm going to just, if we have time at the end of the day, we're going to show a 10-minute video. They've put together a beautiful video. If we're at the very end, we can get to it. We're going to. If not, it'll definitely be posted. But that's our plan. That's our goal. And if not, we can also show it the next week too. So if you have someone out there looking for scholarships, think about this. We have several to give out, so it'd be nice if we could get some more applications in for that. So take a look at that, and hopefully a video later. RILA, important dates coming up. So this is a student-run student leadership group at Grinnell College in July. Applicational deadlines are coming up at the end of this month, so we'll be thinking about that. We already have 3 right now to review, so we do have 2 on our budget, so that's where we're at with that right now. And next up, It's going to be my pleasure to have Kevin come up and introduce our main speaker for the day.
Thank you, Jamie. It's my pleasure to introduce Amber Deardorff, who became president and CEO of Mary Greeley Medical Center in August of 25. She joined the administrative team in 2017 as vice president for clinical and support services and was promoted in 23 to vice president, chief operating officer, and chief nursing officer. Her career at Mary Greeley includes roles as Director of Clinical Application Systems, Intensive Cardiac Care Unit Nurse, and Patient Care Technician, giving her a deep understanding of both clinical operations and patient care. A lifelong Ames resident and proud Ames High graduate, I added that part, Deardorff holds a Bachelor's of Science from Iowa State University, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from Grandview College, a Master's of Public Administration from Drake University. She is active in the Iowa Hospital Association and engaged in numerous community organizations throughout Ames and Story County. Amber, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon now. It's really a pleasure to be here today, and I'm looking around the room, and I won't pretend that I'm not a little intimidated, because I'm talking about healthcare, and I mean, there's about half of the room that could truly come up and present what I'm going to talk about even better than me. So this will be an introduction to healthcare. When Kevin asked 3 or 4 months ago to come and speak, I said, "What do you want to hear about?" He said, "Healthcare." I went, "Whew, that's a big topic." So when I was thinking about this, I did this for our Leadership Ames presentation about 2 weeks ago, and it seemed to hit well with that group. It was just informative, but it's a short presentation. I'll take about 15, 20 minutes to talk through my slides, and then I really want to spend time with all of you to answer any questions that you may have that I didn't answer here. And how I came up with some of these topics that I wish you knew about was just family conversation around the dinner table. So it's either my son was asking questions or my husband, who is a banker here in town, just asking questions about healthcare, and as a consumer of healthcare, not understanding how it all fits together. So I'm going to touch very high level, and I do want to put a whole bunch of asterisks into everything I talk about. Healthcare is incredibly complicated. It's complex. What I talk about here is true for some. It's not true for everyone. It is not a black and white type situation. So you may know of several situations where some of the examples I used didn't hold true, and that's the beauty and chaos of healthcare. It's just, my answer is, it depends. So here we go. What I wish everyone knew. I'm gonna just briefly, I have a slide over Mary Greeley Medical Center to get you acquainted to our organization if you're not already familiar with us. And then let's start with talking about how awesome healthcare is. I'm then going to go through 2 examples of how we get reimbursed within a hospital setting. So hospitals are different than clinics, and they're different than nonprofits, and are different than whatever agency. So I'll give you 2 real-life examples of patients that came through our doors, and then I want to end on a positive note. We have to focus on our mission to take care of our community, and then, like I said, I'm going to turn it over to all you for questions. So Mary Greeley, we are here in obviously Ames, Iowa. 220 beds is what we are accredited through the state for. So right now we staff about 198 beds, and we only have 198 beds within our walls. So we are accredited for 220, so that means we have a little bit of extra flexibility when we go through capital campaigns. We just went through one on birthways. We added new NICU beds. It gives us the flexibility to add some of these spaces as we would need. We continue to grow. So healthcare in general, we're seeing less and less inpatients come through our doors and more outpatient care. Mary Greeley is seeing both. And I think there's a reason for that. Here in Iowa, obviously most of our hospitals are rural. And as more and more rural hospitals shut down services or can't provide services or can't recruit physicians or workforce, we're seeing those patients then funnel into these urban areas like Ames. So our inpatient volumes continue to increase, and we have a greater catchment area. So we consider about 14 counties. If you think of a half circle or a rainbow around Story County, all the way to Carroll County, up through like Mason City, over to Tama, that's pretty much our catchment area. We are seeing tremendous growth, though, in North Ankeny, and even from Des Moines. We're starting to pull patients up north from those areas. So we continue to grow. Our emergency room also continues to grow. So when I became part of the executive team, 2017, I would say our average emergency room annual visits were about 28,000. 10 years prior to that, much, much less, 22,000. We're at a pretty consistent 34,000 plus every year now coming through our emergency room. We continue to grow our outpatient services, and then I do want to focus on our behavioral health area. This is something very intentional for our community and for Mary Greeley Medical Center, is how can we invest more into behavioral health? So we did just reopen or open a larger inpatient behavioral health unit for adults. We are seeing, you can see over 790 patients every year in that inpatient unit. We would love to grow that, and we also often get asked to grow our inpatient services, which is great. So if you look at the services we provide, we turn away approximately 300 referrals into our inpatient unit every month. And that's just because we either don't have the room, don't have the capacity, we can't fit the needs of that patient. So we want to grow that service. But what happens is once these patients are discharged from our inpatient units, they don't have that supportive care in the outpatient realm to do the work they need. So then they're just going to end up right back in inpatient. So we need to grow this outpatient structure before we dedicate more inpatient beds. And that's where these 7,500 outpatient visits are trying to help in. There's so many services that our community lacks. So we continue to invest in those outpatient services with the intention of continuing to grow the inpatient areas as well. And then something very unique about Mary Greeley, especially nationwide here in our state, we are city-owned. So that means my boss, they're publicly elected board of trustees. They're fantastic. Very, very fortunate to have such a dedicated board. We are independent. We're city-owned, but we aren't affiliated with any of the big systems down south or those bigger systems that you may have heard. But we are financially independent. So we don't receive support from the city. We don't receive tax support or tax levies. We are completely independent in how we operate. The only thing really we can't do as a hospital without city council approval. We can't sell, obviously, without city council approval, and we can't go out for like bond referendums or things like that without city council approval. All right, so the first thing, what I wish you knew. Think back, maybe in the last 2 weeks. Think of any healthcare stories you've heard, things on the news you've heard about. What have you recently seen about healthcare on social media or the news? Is there anything positive? No. So this was from my son. So I have a 15-year-old son. He's a freshman at Ames High. And we were talking about careers last year, and he was like, I don't know what I want to be, maybe an architect. I'm trying to get him into the health field. I'm like, maybe you should consider going into healthcare. He's like, why would I want to do that? You always come home talking about bad things. I'm like, man. So I'm missing my mark as an administrator, as a healthcare worker. I think we all are. So all we hear on the news, in politics, is how broken healthcare is. And even though there's a little bit of truth around that, healthcare is truly the most inspiring, best healthcare or best field out there. And I'm fearful that if we keep this narrative of the doom and gloom of healthcare and it's so bad, and as a nurse you're going to come in, you're going to be overworked, you're not going to get bathroom breaks, you might get punched, who's going to want to go into that? And so my plea to all of you is, yes, there are broken parts of healthcare, but it is fabulous. And I wrote down service above self. I can't think of a better industry to align with what you do here at Rotary than healthcare. Healthcare is service above self. That's why I personally got into healthcare. I was lost. I had 7 different majors at Iowa State. I didn't really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to help others, and healthcare allows me to do this, and we get to help those that are most vulnerable. So my plea to you, if you leave here, help us change that narrative, especially for our young ones that are looking for a career that will fulfill them long term. And then the second part, I want to talk about understanding the cost of care, because that's part of the brokenness, right? And if we would ever model how payment delivery occurs within healthcare, we could never do it the way it's currently modeled. And I don't even know how to fix it, undo it. It's broken, it's a mess. But I want to highlight, these are once again, very simple examples of how it could, should, maybe works for some individuals. And so before I get into the examples, I just want to make sure that we all have a common understanding. When I'm talking about total charges, it's the charges that Mary Greeley or hospitals list as our price. So if you go out on a website, you're going to see a list price for a certain thing. Allowed amount, that's what our payers or the insurance companies say what that cost of care is worth. So they only allow a certain amount to be paid for any inpatient. And I should put the little brackets. This is for inpatient care. Contractual, that's what we'll end up getting from the insurance companies, and then patient responsibilities is what all of you would owe for that visit as well. So we're going to talk about a labor and delivery. The Leadership Aims class had several pregnant individuals, so I thought this would hit well. But this is a very standard thing, comes through our door. It's a happy occasion. We have an example of a healthy mom. She was at 39 weeks. She had no complications. Total charges, so that's our list price, was about $13,000. This is very small. I get it. I don't really expect you to see the codes there, but how we communicate with payers and insurance companies is all through codes and then documentation. So what you see back here, 042.02, that is the code that the insurance company understands as a very standard, non-complicated labor, vaginal delivery. And so this is how we're communicating with the insurance companies. That's what the patient came in for, and then she left with that as a primary diagnosis. And then I believe she had a third-degree tear, too. So some of that information is in there. Once again, it's just communication back and forth. The payers will then go into our charts and be like, does the documentation support what your code said? So our charge, our list price for this patient was $13,000. This specific payer, so payers all had different contracts. We have different rates. We have different ways we get paid through payers. With this patient's example, the insurance company said, okay, for that non-complicated delivery, that cost of care was worth $7,700. So I know your charge was a lot more, but you only get $7,700. So we have to write off that $5,300 extra dollars that was part of our charge. So we just throw that away. We can't go at it, it's just gone. So now we have this allowed amount through the insurance company of $7,700. So who pays what? So in this example, there's the insurance payment, and then the patient has a portion of the responsibility as well. And so for this, there's that out-of-pocket max that our patients have. This is the maximum per annual cycle. For this patient, every payer is different. But for this patient, she has an annual amount that she'll pay max of, and then there's a deductible, a co-insurance. Copay for this one didn't really make sense because that's more of an outpatient type of responsibility for that patient. So here in this example, $7,700 is what the payer said. This is what that cost of care is worth. The insurance company then paid us at $3,600. The patient was responsible for her deductible of $2,400. And then there is the co-insurance part of it. So she must have hit her deductible max, and then she pays the additional co-insurance with the insurance company. So very complicated. Once again, we started with $13,000, and Mary Greeley gets reimbursed the $7,000. I'm going to use a different example because I think this is the part that most of our community doesn't understand when they see these ginormous bills. $390,000 was the charges for this patient. Mary Greeley doesn't get reimbursed that. I will say we generally make some type of a margin on our labor and delivery patients. Most of our medical patients, we either break even or we don't make money. We lose a little bit of money on some of these patients. So this is a good example of a patient that we cared for that we lost quite a bit of money. So this patient, very, very sick, got admitted to our ICU, was transferred to a medical unit, and then their total stay at Mary Greeley was 38 days. This patient had discharge orders at day 8. So the patient was ready for discharge. They needed extra care outside of Mary Greeley. So this is where then we have our case managers, our teams pulling together to try to find the appropriate help that this patient needs post-discharge. It took 30 extra days to find a place that would accept the patient and care for the patient and their needs. So the patient was our guest for those additional 30 days. And with this is just an example. So once again, we're communicating with the insurance companies with these codes and our documentation. This patient had 34 diagnosis codes within the chart. This is just showing the top 15. So once again, our total charge is $390,000. So with our charges, we charge for every night stay, anytime they go in for an x-ray, any labs that are drawn, visits, those all get charged to the patient bill. The insurance company, though, pays on a DRG, meaning if this patient came in, for example, with sepsis, there are certain DRGs, as if the insurance company says, a typical sepsis patient will come to your hospital and stay a total of 4 days. So we're going to pay 4 days worth of that care. So on average, this patient would cost the hospital $45,000. So the payer has set this in advance, says you are going to get reimbursed $4,500 or $45,000 for that patient stay, regardless of how long they stay. And so we started with 390, same type of max. We had that contractual write-off of that patient of $344,000 because it wasn't expected. It was outside of what would be expected. So then with this patient example, $45,000 is still a lot. I don't want these numbers are huge, and I don't want to discount how expensive healthcare is. But with this $45,000, this patient had already met their deductible, and so the insurance company did pay that $45,000, and then no patient responsibility was part of that care. So we wrote off the $350,000, and with this patient being in the hospital, as you can imagine, 38 days, we did lose money. But this is why it's important to have a variety of different services within a hospital. But this is also, when you hear some of these larger systems, when you're hearing about hospitals not making money, part of it is this. We are here to care for the community. We would never kick that patient out of our door and say, kind of good luck. It is our responsibility to care for those individuals that come into our facility, but we still have this barrier through the insurance companies of that payment and how we can get reimbursed. So that's all kind of doom and gloom, and that's some of the difficult part of our job. And once again, this is one small example. They're not all like this. Some are self-pay, some are a percentage of the total cost. Every insurance company is set up different, but they do kind of dictate what we're reimbursed when it comes to the end of the stay and how we conduct our business. So I think on my slide I said it's the craziest business model you will ever see, you'll ever be a part of. I'm looking at John because he's on our one of our finance board committees, and it's the strangest concept to try to wrap your head around. You can never really plan on what that payment is going to be at the end of the year. We're just a receiver of the payments we get. So how do we move past this? How do we make sure that regardless of all those kind of chaotic things we have on us, we still keep the patient at the center of the mission? So that's what keeps me excited to come back to work every day. That's why I've stayed at Mary Greeley 25 plus years. This is what drives me, and I know all the retired physicians, all of my workforce that comes to Mary Greeley every day, it's about our patients. Our mission is to provide excellent patient-centered care for all, and it's very intentional. So the very first word in that is we provide excellent patient-centered care. The we, it's all of us. So it's not the nurses, just the nurses. It's not just the physicians. It's every person that works at Mary Greeley is part of our workforce to care for that individual. And then we care for anyone that walks into our facility, regardless of their ability to pay, regardless of their background. We are here for the community. So keeping that mission center helps us work through some of the challenges that we see moving forward. And I do want to share two patient comments, examples that I've recently received that helps us just keep charging along during some of the difficult moments. We have a DAISY program, and DAISY is a recognition for our nurses at the bedside, and they're recognized by their patients and the family. So this is a DAISY Award winner that we got through a patient family, and it states, on behalf of Dave, please accept this nomination for the DAISY Award for Nurse Bailey. She was an angel on duty when he was admitted. Dave is a Vietnam veteran, and you always knew where you stood in his world. He had this uncanny ability to look at one's soul and decipher their sincerity. Bailey was a perfect match for him. She is a perfect definition of what nursing should be. We'll never forget her. On a dark evening, I witnessed Bailey connecting and understanding with him with sincere, genuine kindness, knowing very well that she had other patients to care for. She demonstrated such tender patience. She was unhurried, knowledgeable about his meds to keep him comfortable, because she knew he wasn't going to live much longer. She wasn't short with him. She listened as though he were her only patient. Our daughter and I knew he was in good hands. On that same evening, the image of them conversing was branded in my mind. He was so weak and reached for her. She bent down very closely in order to hear him speak. And what this is a much shorter version of what he quietly and sincerely told Bailey. He said, "I probably will never see you again, so I want to thank you for all your kindness and patience and listening to me. I enjoy our conversations. You're a hell of a good nurse." So please know this was a huge compliment coming from Dave, because he never said anything he didn't mean. I could see this really touched Bailey, but she remained composed. We walked out of the room together. I began to sob, and she didn't hesitate to hug me and ask if I was okay. Once again, Mary Greeley, you have an angel on staff. Dave was transferred to hospice the following day. He took his last breath later that day. So he was right. He knew he would never see Bailey again. But he would want Bailey to understand the impact of her care for him. She is so deserving. So that's one example. And then I have a handwritten one. And this one just touches something special in my heart, because the simplicity of it, but then the magnitude of it. It says, "Dear people of Mary Greeley Medical Center, I want to say thank you to all of the staff that helped bring me to the point that I am now. I know there was a lot of you that saved my life. It was the wake-up call I needed. I am sober. The treatment center is really great. Thank you for picking the right one for me. God bless each and every one of you. You're all so important, with all my love." And so this was an individual that probably came into our emergency department. He might not have been so kind. He might have been high on some medication, drug that we didn't really know of, and we still banded around this patient and helped him get the recovery and the support he needed. So this happens 100 times every day. And so if we can keep this, if I can help keep this at the center of what we do for our patients and for our community, we'll get the other stuff worked out, I hope. So that is what I had presented for you today. Like I said, it was short, but I really wanted to spend time too on, were there pieces about healthcare that I didn't touch on, about Mary Greeley, about our community, that you were very interested in learning more about?
Talk a little bit about the difference on your two examples.
Yeah.
How do you fund that portion that's not being reimbursed by either the patient or, I mean, that, if those are real charges, somebody's picking that up eventually, either in the community or in your financial enterprise.
That's a great question. So I've worked at Mary Greeley 25 years, and I will say this is the first year that we have ever had a goal of a negative margin. It doesn't happen. Healthcare is difficult. It is getting far more challenging to make a margin. I heard one of the Unity Point executives talk just recently. They have over 700 travelers, nursing travelers within their facility. They're shutting beds down, and they will have a significant negative margin within a few years. So it is very challenging, and so right now how we're making it up is we have to be efficient. We have to make the right decisions for our community and for our patients. There are service lines like our Birthways that this does cover the charge and the care that we did. Most of the first floor services, if you think of surgeries, radiology, sometimes the emergency department, we do make a slight margin on that. So it's counting on those service lines that are still profitable for us to make up the difference for our inpatient care.
So Amber, could you just briefly talk about recruitment and retention of physicians and healthcare workers?
Yeah, so recruitment, we have, it's just so critical. We've known it for so long. I mean, when I was a baby nurse 23 years ago, they were talking about this upcoming need for nurses and physicians, and we are there. It is incredibly challenging for recruitment of providers. recruitment of our nursing staff. So some of the things that we're doing, obviously for our workforce, nurses, technicians, partnering with any college around us, and making sure that we invite their students in, that they have really good experiences at Mary Greeley. The partnership with Iowa State University, they just got approval for an accelerated BSN program. That's 94 additional nursing students within the walls of Mary Greeley every year, or every semester, that's a potential workforce addition. And so these are the things that may be a little costly for us up front, but we have to do this to have the workforce on the back end. So a few months ago, 6 months ago maybe, you might have seen this education center that was announced in the Tribune. It made it sound like it's a done deal, it's happening. We're in the planning phases, but in that partnership with Iowa State University, we need a space to train and educate these nurses. And so at their high point, like I said, they'll need 94 plus spots to train through simulation, workforce needs. So we are partnering with them on what this educational building or space may look like. For providers, I would say it's even more dire. There are some specialties that there's just truly not enough physician providers. I'm really worried. GI, cardiology, I mean, you name it. There's, especially here in central rural Iowa, it's very difficult and challenging to recruit into our space. And so we are going into the schools. Anyone interested in healthcare, certainly individuals that are in medical school, we talk to them frequently. Our physicians do a great job of reaching out to them, making connections. And we are, with McFarland Clinic, a very strong partner of ours, looking at a potential residency program in the future. Long, long ways to go, but it's how do we build this workforce for the future generations?
Amber, one of the trends I've seen in the last years is high deductible medical health insurance, and that scares me. And some of them are 10,000 or greater than 10,000. You know, it seems like the rubber hits the road really when these people have a required hospitalization. I mean, can you talk on that patient side, how you guys are dealing with those high deductible situations? Thanks.
Yeah, it makes me really nervous too, and sometimes it's the patient's only option. And so I'm a little maternalistic with our plans at Mary Greeley, because there are staff that are asking for like cheaper monthly payments into their paycheck to pay for the health support if they just had a higher deductible. Why can't we have a high deductible of $10,000, $15,000? And it's usually those entering the workforce that can't spend the extra in their daily paycheck or their weekly paychecks to support a lower deductible. But they're the same individuals that if something were to happen, I doubt they have $15,000 just sitting around to pay that huge deductible if and when something does happen. So it's education. And then Mary Greeley, something I'm very proud of, we are nonprofit. We are there to assist. And so I believe last year we had $13 million of community benefit. Any individual that walks in with these high deductible plans, we will absolutely work with them on a payment plan. We'll get them the help and assistance they needed. So that is certainly part of our mission too.
How does the new surgery center affect your margins?
Yeah, so, you know, I mentioned 25 years, we've never had a negative margin. And surgery center opens, and I said that first floor, procedure, surgery is typically what makes us money. So with the surgery center, let me start out by saying our community and Mary Greeley are so much better with the surgery center in it. Part of the reasons we opened the surgery center, all of you should demand it. As consumers, as those that are coming in for procedures, it is a cheaper cost of care for all of you. So with your insurance plan, you're gonna pay 50% to 60% less for the same exact procedure at a surgery center. The efficiencies and cost of care at a surgery center are just so much less. They get to close their doors at the end of their surgery. They can be super efficient in the fact of, like, if they're doing, let's say, total knees one day, they can line up all right knees. And if you think of, like, even how you set up a room, if you do all right knees, you don't have to change the equipment from bedside to bedside and flip things around. I mean, you can just be efficient and you can go and you get to shut your doors at the end of the day. We're a hospital, you need us to be open 24/7. You need that CT scanner running, you need us to have the workforce dedicated for if you come in an emergency procedure. So it's more expensive to care for you at a hospital. So you should all demand a surgery center. The payers are also starting to demand this. So we started seeing payers like United for GIs, for ENT procedures, tonsillectomies type thing. They were telling patients they could no longer get that procedure at Mary Greeley or McFarland Clinic here in Ames because there was a surgery center within 75 miles and it was a cheaper cost of care, so they had to go down south. The states all around us, that's how it's already set up. Iowa's next, so it's a little bit, let's get ahead of the horse a little bit. And then the quality is still fantastic. It's where you should have those outpatient procedures for anyone that's safe. So that did impact our margin, though. It's about a $26 million negative impact on our margin. It's taking 60% of the surgeries that we did at Mary Greeley and moving them out to the surgery center. And we're partnering with McFarland Clinic with that. So take that 100% of what we used to get, moved it to the surgery center. Now we get half of it because we're a partner, which is good. This helps recruitment for our surgeons. We've had incredible success getting docs to our community because of the surgery center, so that's great. And then the surgery center gets paid less, so we already get 50%, and then we're gonna get 50% of the payment we used to get. So it's just less revenue coming in for us. So it did have a negative impact, and that is why we have this negative margin. I am convinced we will be fine. I don't want you walking out of here thinking Mary Greeley is in any type of financial strain at this point. We will be fine. We have 3 years to work ourselves out of this. We have good plans in place. We will be fine. But it will take us a little bit of time to march back out of this hole.
Oh, hi there. Yeah, Tom Walsh. Thank you so much for all that you do and your focus. How does the Affordable Care Act, like Obamacare, does that improve your margins?
No, it allows patients to come in with payers. And so it allows those that might have not come in at all because they didn't have any insurance. It certainly opens the doors for those individuals. It gives a little bit of assurance to our patients that they have a provider that will work with them to help pay off their bills. My fear is as more and more of this, or more and more patients are uninsured, they're going to be too afraid to come in. They don't, it's so complex. Like, how can anyone really figure this out? If you go out on our website, you could see a bill for $500,000. That's an exaggeration, $50,000. Like, they're never going to come in for those type of things. They don't know that we work with them. We decrease the overall charges. I think we're going to see a lot of patients get really, really sick before they come in for care.
I think it's my turn. Anyway, I have 2 questions, by the way, but before I get into that, I've been a long-term resident of Ames. I've watched the hospital grow, Kim Russell, then Brian Dieter. And Brian was president of this club, you know. Anyway, I am so lucky to be living in Ames, Iowa, and having such a wonderful hospital like these guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, my first question. Nurses are so important. And I see recently now you're going to have some kind of a break room for nurses, which is a great idea. But anyway, how is the supply of nurses?
Yeah. So nursing supply and demand is not great. It's really not. I already talked about Unity Point having 700-ish travelers. That might have been University of Iowa. The amount of travelers in health systems right now and that expense is enormous. And so there is still a critical need for nurses. And I think that's where these school partnerships are going to be so incredibly important for our community. So how do we partner with DMAC, with Iowa State, with Allen College, and providing, we had over 1,000 nursing students, in our walls last year. So that's good.
Good. Second question. There's a lot of people in this room, I think, that are on Medicare. I am, anyway. Medicare takes care of 80% of your bill. You need supplemental. Is there any insurance supplemental company that is out of network with you guys?
Yes, there are some.
Oh.
And so like the Aetna MA program, we recently had to part ways with. And so there are. So my plea to all of you looking for additional coverage, meet with our SHIP counselors, call us, ask for assistance. It's what we have individuals dedicated to help you work through. So make sure you do your research with our SHIP counselors to help you make that right choice.
I'm Merlin Hove. Do you have any beds for hospice in the hospital now?
Oh yeah, so I should have talked about hospice. And so thank you for bringing that up. We did have to make that very difficult decision in October to close our hospice house. And this is one of, unfortunately, probably the byproducts of just healthcare in general. The reasons we had to close the house, we saw decreasing numbers of individuals that wanted to utilize the house. We saw more and more individuals wanting to stay home with our services. Many of our individuals were in a care facility already and they just wanted to stay there. And so then our staff go out to that care facility and help with those hospice services. And so we did transition. We closed the house December 31st, and we have seen, I should have brought these numbers, I apologize, approximately 8 patients that have come to Mary Greeley for care because there was no other options for them. We've seen several use those Bethany Life rooms that we are renting. So we have 2 rooms up in Bethany Manor for hospice care only. They are Mary Greeley's. They are dedicated for that. And these are for the patients. We will accept any and all patients. And part of what we're seeing in our community is the competition of other hospice care programs that are for-profit. And so there are individuals that don't have the means. We've had a few homeless individuals in our house that we cared for during their passing. These rooms at Bethany Life are dedicated and used for those individuals that have no other options. We have seen quite a tremendous growth in our hospice program. So we've seen more individuals enter hospice at Mary Greeley, and then we help find the most appropriate bed for them during that time.
John Deardorff.
Hi.
Amber, first of all, thank you for sharing this information. I mean, it's a difficult discussion to have because most of the public don't understand how difficult the financial model is in the healthcare, particularly for hospitals. But one thing that kind of helps is you do use a fair number of volunteers. I think one of your earlier slides, something like 200 volunteers. Is there an area that we have a shortage of volunteers, that if you could get more volunteers, it's an area that you'd like to focus on?
That is a great question, and I can get back to you. So we do have a very robust volunteer program at Mary Greeley, and I would love to share that information. So I can send that information along in kind of areas of need. But we couldn't do it without our volunteers. So we have anywhere between 200 and 300 volunteers that work within our walls every year. And then I don't think I completely answered the question about nurses. I keep talking in general, the nursing workforce. At Mary Greeley, we do have openings, but we are doing very well. You heard of some of these bigger systems, 500 to 800 travelers. We, I believe at this point, have 6, and they're in those very hard to fill overnight positions. They're fully trained, they are excellent staff, but we do have 6 travel staffs just to fill some of those overnight roles.
Amber, thanks for your presentation and for your work with your team. I've got 2 quick questions. I'm Randy Olson, Iowa Limestone Producers Association. In the first example, the vaginal birth, I think you said the Mary Greeley charge was $13,000+. The reimbursement that was agreed to by the payer was $7,700. And I think I heard you say that that's allowed by contract. Who is that contract with? I assume there's a contract, there's a negotiation, one side or the other. Do you have any negotiated leverage in those contracts as you work with the payers, or are they just telling you this is what the reimbursement is going to be?
So we do have contracts with each payer, and I'll look to my healthcare friends. Do we have any negotiating power? No. No. The state of Iowa is a big Blue Cross state, and it's pretty much here you go.
Okay. And I think you said in the last 8 to 9 years, you've been monitoring your ER visits. Maybe in 2017, they were pegged at about 28,000 a year. Now they're more like 34,000. So up about 20% over that 8 to 9 years. I don't think population's increased 20% in the region. Is there a primary cause that you, as an executive team, have pointed to for why the increase in those ER visits over that time?
Yeah, I think it's really twofold. One is the rural hospitals around us. So I think if COVID showed us and did anything, it helped healthcare in the state and across the country realize how much we depend on each other. So I want the hospitals in Des Moines to do exceedingly well, because when they're healthy, they keep their beds open. That means I can transfer any patient that we can't serve here in our community. I can easily transfer them to that next highest level of care without difficulty. What we're seeing now is these hospitals down south are at capacity. They might not have enough workforce, and then the rural hospitals also don't have workforce, can't find providers. If you think of even general surgery, the hospitals around us used to be able to have 24/7 coverage of general surgery. So if a patient walked in, needed an appendectomy, they used to be able to do that in some of these rural hospitals. We're seeing more and more of them unable to recruit that service line of general surgery and others, and so they have to go to that next level of care. And so that oftentimes is Mary Greeley for our 14-county catchment area. And then I will say behavioral health and mental health patients is certainly growing at an exponential rate as well. So in our old ER, prior to our updates in 2015, we didn't even have a bed or a space for a mental health patient. We opened with 2 beds, and I think within the first 2 months we realized we severely created that space, and so we're now up to 4. I do expect within the next year or 2 we'll have a much larger space for behavioral health patients in our ED as well.
Thank you, Amber Deardorff. Everyone, give a round of applause. And as always, for our guest speaker, we have a book for you to sign here that will, part of Raising Readers, will have a 2-year-old give this book to them on their checkup. So you can pick bugs, cats, or dogs, and please sign the back. Yeah, okay.
Bugs would be appropriate for...
That's true.
But thank you again.
Thank you so much.
I'll make sure we get that to him. Yeah,
Awesome,
perfect.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Another round of applause for Amber. We are truly blessed in this community to have the workers that you have there, the staff, the connection you have between Mary Greeley and McFarland Clinic. So really are blessed in this community to have that. So thank you, and everybody that works there. Those letters are, I'm sure, not enough of those letters coming back to you, I'm sure. So thank you again. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close out for the day. So please stand and recite with me the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you, everyone. We do have the video that we could share here now. If you wanted to stick around and watch that video, we can share that. Have a great week, everyone.